Welcome back. We're nearly 3 weeks into the MLB season, and we've already seen some players emerging as MVP candidates. In the National League, Ronald Acuna Jr. and Juan Soto are making headlines as the favorites for the award. Meanwhile, in the American League, Mike Trout and JD Martinez have been red hot to start the season. I'm joined now by Marena Sever and Blake Sevenbergen to make their picks for MLB MVP races.
So we'll start with the American League, and I want to talk about Mike Trout because I think for me right now, Mike Trout is the easy MVP candidate, not only right now, but also come the end of the season. If we're talking predictions, I think Mike Trout will absolutely win the AL MVP. Listen, the guy's been in the league 10 years, and he's never finished below 5th place for MVP voting, and he's only been to the playoffs once. And so not only is he the greatest player in baseball right now, and that's not up for debate for me or for most people, I think, but he now has such a better team around him, and he has a chance to finally add that postseason play, because he's only been into the postseason one time in his career, and he finally has the opportunity now with a much better team around him, guys like Ohtani, Anthony Rendon, that kind of thing. And so I think that only makes him better. That only helps his case. He's the best player in baseball. He's doing phenomenally this season, as expected, as he always does, and I think Mike Trout is going to be the AL MVP.
Yeah, so as you said, Mike Trout, it's not even a debate. He's the best player in baseball. He has been since he got to the league. But right now, JD Martinez is on a roll. I mean, he's tied. He's 6th in AL batting, tied for the most home runs, leads in RBIs. So he's at the top of all statistical categories. He's played more games than Mike Trout and has less strikeouts than Mike Trout right now. The only problem is that he's a DH. Obviously, he doesn't play defense like Mike Trout does. But what he's doing with the bat in his hands right now is second to none.
Yeah, that's true. But because he doesn't play defense, you can't win MVP because defense is half the game. If he wanted to win MVP as a DH, he'd have to hit like over 50 home runs and 430 and beat Trout out in OPS and every category like that. And the thing is, you can't win MVP as a DH, and this is something JD Martinez knows, because if you look back to 2018, JD Martinez out-hit the 2018 AL MVP, Mookie Betts, his teammate in Boston, in every offensive category, but he doesn't play defense. So yes, he was the better offensive player, but because Mookie Betts also plays in the field and is incredibly valuable and skilled in the field, Betts got MVP over Martinez. And JD Martinez this year is not going to have as good of a year offensively as he did in 2018 when he still didn't win the MVP. So I think it's not a bad argument because, again, he's doing phenomenally right now. JD Martinez is behind the plate, or in the batter's box, I mean. And but I don't think it's enough to knock out Trout. And I think you just can't. Trout is the best player in baseball. He just is. And he's a 5-tool player. And JD Martinez doesn't even have all 3 of the tools that he gets to exercise as a hitter because he is slow. So his base running isn't, even up to par with Mike Trout. So I don't know. AL MVP, I think at this point is going to be Mike Trout.
I can't disagree. The defense is definitely a problem for JD Martinez, but the role that he's on at the plate right now, I mean, it's second to none. He's helping lead a team that the Red Sox weren't expected to be great this year. They're top of the AL East. I mean, they're beating the Yankees. They're beating teams handily. They're beating the White Sox, who I predicted to make the World Series. I mean, JD Martinez is a big part of that, and I think if he continues the role that he's on for the team that he has, I think the sky's the limit, and I definitely think he should be an MVP.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think we're just going to have to agree to disagree. He should stay in the conversation, absolutely. Of course, he is in the conversation, and I can't deny that he's doing phenomenally right now. But defense is half the game. I don't think he can win MVP when he literally doesn't have a glove, and he learned that in 2018, and I think we'll see it again.
Yeah, so let's transition over now to the NL. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it's like a two-headed monster over there. Mm-hmm. Juan Soto, Ronald Acuna Jr., both in the NL East, probably the toughest division in baseball, as you've said.
Easily.
Who do you got?
So I am going to take Juan Soto because Juan Soto he's just, I don't even have enough words to describe how prolific of a player he is. He's incredible in every single category, and there's a reason why at the beginning of the season, Juan Soto was the favorite to win MVP. And even though his stats are not, up to par with everyone else right now, I mean, it's because we still have 5 players hitting over 400. That pace won't continue, so as you get further into this 162-game season, it's going to even out. And I think Juan Soto is going to be at the top. I will confidently predict that, and I think Juan Soto come the end of the season is going to be the MVP, but I'm curious to know what you have to say.
Yeah, so like you said, his stats aren't there right now. He's not top 5 in any statistical category, and his team is last in the NL East. Ronald Acuna Jr., while his team is only 1 spot above the Nationals, he has batting .419 right now, which is unreal. It might be early in the season, but that's unheard of. Very few guys bat 419 consistently. If he can keep that up, obviously there's no debate. And he's hitting a bunch of home runs. He's second in RBIs. I mean, you can't argue that Ronald Acuna Jr. isn't the best player in the National League right now with the numbers that he's putting up on an already playoff caliber team.
Yeah, I can't argue that, but the key word there is right now. Of course, if the MVP voting ended today, if it happened right now, Ronald Acuna Jr. would be the easy pick for the NL. But we're 3 weeks into an 162-game season. He cannot keep up this pace because nobody will keep up this pace. Nobody's hit over 400 in a season. And so it's great that he's doing it right now. It's great that he's going crazy in stats, but that's not going to continue. That pace can't continue. And the thing with Acuna is, and I'm going to try and explain this as succinctly as possible, but Acuna hits first in his lineup, and he benefits from having Freddie Freeman hit behind him because he's protected. So pitchers, the last thing they want to do is put the leadoff man on base. So they have to pitch to Acuna because he's protected by Freeman hitting behind him. And Freeman is arguably the best hitter on the Braves, and right now, stats aside, Acuna might not even be the best player on his team because of Freddie Freeman, the reigning NL MVP. And so Acuna is protected by having Freddie Freeman hit behind him because you have to pitch to Acuna and try and get him out, because if you put him on base, then you have the best hitter on the team coming up behind him. With Juan Soto, it's different because Juan Soto hits second. So there's nobody hitting behind him, protecting him. So Trey Turner hits leadoff for the Nationals. Trey Turner gets pitched to like Acuna does because they have a better shot at getting Trey Turner out, and then Soto comes up and they pitch around him because there's nobody behind Soto protecting him in the way that Freeman protects Acuna. So if we could get this graphic up on the screen, I want to talk about this a little bit. So you can see Ronald Acuna Jr.'s stats pitch locations on the left side of the screen and the pitches that Juan Soto gets on the right. And this is just an example of the pitching being pitched to and being pitched around. Ronald Acuna Jr. sees better pitches because he's being pitched to. Of course, his numbers are inflated. He gets way more stuff to hit. No pitcher gives Juan Soto anything good to put his bat on because there's nobody behind him. It's okay if Soto gets on base because they're confident that they can get the other players out. So if they walk Soto, it's not the end of the world because you've got Bell and Schwarber behind him, and they're not that prolific offensively. So again, we can just look and see Ronald Acuna Jr. sees way better pitches. They're giving him stuff to hit, and he's hitting it, but Soto doesn't see pitches, and he still is batting over 300. They don't give him anything to hit because they pitch around him because they can, and he still bats over 300. And come the end of the season, again, these stats, these batting averages, and all of these offensive numbers will even out, and come the end of the year, Soto's going to be better than Acuna. That's just my opinion on it, that Soto will beat Acuna out.
See, here's my take on that, though, is with Acuna batting leadoff, that I would almost say that adds more value to him because when he gets on base, obviously Freddie Freeman's great. There's no arguing that. Freddie Freeman is amazing at baseball. But if you've got him batting behind Acuna, every time he gets on base, there's a chance he gets knocked in by Freeman. His runs are up. They have to be. I mean, Acuna batting leadoff for the Braves is more important than Juan Soto batting second for the Nationals, in my opinion.
See, I disagree because Juan Soto's on-base percentage is going to be nuts by the end of the season because he walks so much because they pitch around him. Ronald Acuna Jr. strikes out like crazy. In 60 games last season, he struck out 60 times. Soto struck out I think 25 or 28 or something like that. So Acuna is not getting on base in the way that Soto gets on base. And to argue your point, I actually think Acuna being in the leadoff spot hurts his case for MVP because the last thing you want to do is put the leadoff man on base, so you have to pitch to him and try and get him out. You don't want to pitch around him, let him walk, because with Soto, it's easy. You'd rather have Soto walk than give him the chance to hit on you. And with Acuna, it's different. So Acuna gets out way more than Soto does. And again, come the end of the season, I'm calling it, Soto's on-base percentage is going to be insane.
Obviously here, I think we're going to have to agree to disagree. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see how it plays out. They're playing in the same division. They're going to see each other multiple times. I think it's going to be great baseball.
Yeah, and this is like the Harper-Trout debate of this year. So I think it's a really phenomenal debate, and we'll just have to see what happens. Absolutely.
Yeah, back to you, Jacob.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. As always, head over to Sided.co and the Sided Debates app to pick your winners. And give us a follow on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TakeAsideKU. For all of us here at Take a Side, I'm Jacob Polacheck, and we'll see you again next week.